Africa has made major strides in the last decade, moving away from the stereotype of a continent where poverty is rife. There are now new stories emerging of Africa becoming a continent of opportunity, opportunities born out of the will of African youths to brave challenges and make a brighter future for themselves through entrepreneurship. One of these opportunities is a rise in the real estate development sector across the continent. What has led to this, and what can we look forward to seeing more of it on the African continent in future? These and many more questions will be our focus in this edition of In-Depth. Don't go away. Welcome back. My guest is Africa's most influential investment coach. She is a member of the Forbes Business Council, an invitation-only organization for successful entrepreneurs and business leaders across the world. He is a serial entrepreneur and the chairman founder of GTX Global, a multinational conglomerate with 10 subsidiaries operating in Nigeria, Dubai, Florida, and London. He is also the host of the Global Property Brokers Conference, the largest brokers conference in Africa, now renamed the Global Property Festival, with the likes of Grant Cardone, Ryan Serhant, Dr. John Maxwell, and others as co-speaker. The serial entrepreneur has hosted some of the world's most sought-after speakers on his platform, like Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, Brian Tracy, and Les Brown. The Nigerian-born businessman has authored close to 40 books, his latest being the Billionaire Series. Join me to welcome Dr. Stephen AKINTAYO, the founder and chairman of GTX Global. Doctor, thank you very much for talking to Dash News.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, the pleasure is shared. You're one of the most key figures in the real estate sector in Nigeria and a major business coach, but all was not rosy. Tell us a bit about your childhood.
Well, my childhood, I was born in the northern parts of Nigeria. It's called Maiduguri.
Yeah.
At some point, due to our inability to pay house rent, my parents had to move to a village where they had bought a land and built a one room and parlor, we'll call it. Of course, the toilet was outside, pit toilet and no running water.
Typical
no
African,
exactly.
typical rural setting.
African rural setting. So, and we grew up in that neighborhood. My teen years, we moved to the middle part of Nigeria. And that was when, because where we then moved to, I could see people who had a more quality lifestyle. And yet, even though we moved to that vicinity, we were still like the poorest. And the passion for wealth, for success started. I was able to read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad between the age of 17 and 18. And that opened my eyes to the possibility of being wealthy, and that the subject of being wealthy has nothing to do with educational background, but has everything to do with your informal knowledge, you being trained, going through apprenticeship, and that really was a game changer. I started business as a teenager, but our business was formally registered 15 years ago, and we started as a digital marketing firm, bulk SMS, email marketing, social media marketing. 8 years ago, we expanded into real estate, and today we're in 4 continents of the world.
You have a very inspiring story. Yeah. You started business with 1,000 naira. That's yes. Approximately 1,005, 2,000 francs CFA.
Yeah.
What inspired this journey?
Well, so the bulk SMS business we started then was, I didn't have a laptop. I didn't even have the account. So I used to do training on tech business on campus. And a particular organization said I should help them send SMS. They had a conference. So they gave me 700 naira. I added 300 naira to it. I went to a cafe. I don't know, that's some of us.
Yeah, cyber cafe. Yeah, we have them.
So I went to a cyber cafe, created a bulk SMS account under another person. And then I sent, before you know, I got more clients. And later we were able to own our own website. Later I was able to own a laptop. Later we started doing website for other people. By 2015, we were probably the largest in Nigeria because we were operating with multinationals, top, you know, doing hundreds of millions in the same business. But we had to be, and that's why I teach young people the place of being consistent, because we had to continue that business for over 7 years before we saw our over 100 million in transaction. Right, so the place of being consistent is very key. And we also didn't diversify until the business really grew big and we had enough liquidity to start employing more people.
Yeah, you just spoke about consistency, and that brings me to the word challenges. The life of an entrepreneur is not really an easy one. What major challenges did you face across the way? We know that you have mentioned about the fact that you didn't have a laptop, of course.
Well, challenges, we're still facing them. I think, you know, like they said, that challenges are the food of champions. Yeah. We as entrepreneurs were people who, our mindset is always overcoming obstacles and challenges. But I faced so many. From the fact that my mother died in the course of the early days of my entrepreneurship, to the fact that many of the businesses failed. I failed in almost 20 businesses, because sometimes we only hear the successful ones.
Of course, yeah.
But nobody cares about the failed ones. So at some point I even thought it was spiritual, because I kept starting businesses and I kept failing. Of course, today I know better that the problem was that I didn't have an apprentice. I didn't have a mentor early, you know, and I also couldn't even afford the ones that were available. So I kept doing trial and failure, trial and error, and that was part of why those businesses were failing. But I've been through hell being an entrepreneur. I've had seasons where my son couldn't go to school because the money with me was either I pay salary or I pay my son's school fees. And if I don't pay the salary, the business is over. You know,
of course.
So I had to pay the salary, and my son stayed at home and we're not going to school. So I can go on and on and on. But yes, challenges were many. But I think my case was I didn't have an option. There was just no other option. I tried getting a job. I remember when I finished school, I sent 100 CVs. 100. I did 100 copies. Started going for companies. I did a cover letter. I said, don't pay me for 6 months. Right? And the first places I dropped the CV, they still didn't give me a job. So I just had no choice than to make sure that this one business that I had, that's the only thing I had, really. It just had to work. So I couldn't give up.
Now, what really kept you going in the midst of all these difficulties?
Honestly, it was the fact that I didn't have a choice. I often say that a lot of people have options, you know, and here in Africa, you know, you could rely on your cousin, your uncle, your auntie. My mother, who was there for us, was our breadwinner, because my father's business had collapsed and he was not able to raise us financially. She also died of ovarian cancer, you know, about 12 years ago plus, over 12 years ago. So it was that we didn't have who to go to, we didn't have option. There was no rich uncle that you could just talk to and he will help you. It's either it worked. There was a day after my mother died that myself, because the only house she had was where we, the 5 children, had to start living. Yeah. My older brother had gotten married, his wife was pregnant, and we had spent over 2 days no food. In fact, he had to go out with, you know, to say whatever, an idea popped up in his mind. One of his friends sells vegetable. He's a graduate. So he thought of it. There are a lot of companies in that place we lived that, you know what, he can go with the Ghana must go, dress up in suit, get vegetable from his partner, his friend, who was a farmer, and promise to pay back once he sells them. Yeah. Then go to the restaurants of all those, you know, manufacturing companies and see what will happen. So imagine a graduate selling vegetable And typically in Nigeria is, you know, old women with trays.
Yeah, they'll put on trays.
Yeah. So he was in suit, packed the vegetable inside what we call, used to call it Ghana must go.
Yeah,
but that's
we also have the name here.
But
yes.
There was this bag that he puts the, you know, the vegetables, then take them to the places. Funny enough, many of them said to him, we already have suppliers, but we've never seen somebody sell vegetable in soup.
In suit. And that was like the catcher.
Exactly, that was like the catcher. So, okay, we'll give you supply 2 days. These people will supply 3 days. And for me too, I had to start going to school, because we're 2 days no food. So I had to go to school, knocking on, you know, and asking them to buy my bulk SMS. They should just sign up an account with 500 naira. And so we went through hell, and we just didn't have a choice than to just, if I had a choice, I would have given up, but I just didn't have one.
All right. And that resilience there is very important.
Yes.
Now, 8 years down the line, you went into real estate. We'll talk about GTX Homes, but let's look at the sector in general.
Yeah.
Nigeria is a very fertile ground for the real estate sector.
Yeah.
We have seen in Nollywood movies magnificent buildings that have really come up. What do you think has really generated this sector to the limelight? Is it the investments? Is it demand, or combination of both?
Well, it's a combination of both, but majorly the demand, right? So Nigeria is a very huge country. Where I'm very sure by the time they do the next census, Nigeria can't be less than 300 million people. So when you look at that demand, and by size, we're not that big. I'm sure if we compare size, we're almost similar in size to even Cameroon in terms of size, land size now.
Land surface.
You know, but the population of Cameroon is probably 30 million or so.
Yeah.
We are almost 300 million. So that, and then the land isn't that much. They don't create them anymore. They don't produce them anymore. And so that has put pressure on demand of real estate. More people want houses. More people need houses. The housing deficit of Nigeria is over 20 million, right? That's more than half of Cameroon population not even having a house. So it's a serious demand. And the Nigerians in diaspora has also been a major investors, because many of them have also not had it easy with the mortgage systems in the US and other parts of the world, because now they try this mortgage program, you know, start working, you know, 10 years down the line.
You're still paying for your house.
Some, they miss the payment, and before you know it, the bank sells it below the market price, and what they've worked for over 10 years for, all gone. So you've seen a lot of Nigerian diaspora say, whatever happened, I need to still have something back at home. Any emergency can happen. I may still need to go back to Nigeria. And that has helped the sector in a great way.
Now, Doctor, at what point did you realize that real estate is that master key that I have to go into?
For me, was when I visited Silicon Valley, 2015, was 8 years ago. So I went to Silicon Valley, went to Google campus, went to Facebook campus, went to LinkedIn, Apple campus. And I was shocked to see that Google campus was bigger than the biggest university I knew in Nigeria then, in terms of size. And I was shocked because I felt these are just tech companies. They will have big office and technology. But for them to have massive real estate, I kept, you know, crossing what we call Express, you know, on Facebook campus, and we're still within Facebook campus. I've been passing Express Road. It was huge. So it was at that point I realized that these were not just tech companies. They were major on real estate investments. See what happened with Amazon. For Amazon to say we want to open a second campus, different cities in US were bidding, promising to give tax break, running to billions of dollars.
Just to have the campus
just to have
cities.
Exactly. So it dawned on me that these tech companies were real estate companies. They were heavy in real estate. The backbone was real estate. Look at what McDonald's CEO once said. We're not a burger company, we're a real estate company. Because when you check their balance sheet, they make more money from real estate than they do from burger. right? So I saw that real estate was the backbone for every economic activity. And until one invests in that, you know, we are not going to make any headway. And that became a major thing we had to do. And I'm excited about it.
All right, let's talk about the policies. What policies have the federal government put in place to ensure that this sector booms the way it is?
Well, in Nigeria, we don't have enough positive policies yet. And I think it's across Africa. And I think it's because sometimes the political leaders do not know that it's also in their own interest to have the right policies in place. Because when you look at growth of any nation that is successful, real estate has been the backbone. America, for example, has the largest real estate market with over $3 trillion, right? Some even argue to say that almost over $20 to $30 trillion in terms of the real estate market in the US. So look at Dubai. Dubai had to become what she is today, not on oil, because they don't even have oil in commercial quantities. Abu Dhabi that has oil in commercial quantity. But, you know, a city called Dubai has evolved just on the backdrop of real estate. Right now, they are about building the largest airport in the world that's going to be taking over 230 million people every year. Can you believe that?
That's massive.
Right? That's massive. So
massive.
Dubai evolved on the backdrop of real estate. Any African nation that wants to become great has to do that through real estate, because it's the only asset class that is real. That's why they call it real estate.
Yeah.
The word estate goes for even other things aside land, okay? But the one they added real to is the real estate.
Something that is specific.
It's tangible.
Yeah,
you can touch it. I mean, we are in one now. You can feel it. You know, you can't touch Forex, you can't touch crypto, but you can touch real estate. And that's the beauty about it. So I think government has a lot more to do, starting with the policy. Ancestral families own land. So to come up with a policy that, oh, government, you know, is the new owner of land, is an issue that needs to be looked into. If I were in such position, one of the first things I would do is to remove that law. And rather, let there be a tax on every land, right? Because what you are now saying is that government is still claiming to be the original owner of the land, or to be the one to give you C of O, like we call in Nigeria. At the same time, government is still trying to collect what we call land use act.
Land use act.
No, not land use act. There's a word for it. For using the house, there's a word, I can't remember. But there's the usage of the house. They levy you for it as well. So it doesn't make sense. It's just like multiple taxation, multiple policies. Remove your hand, let every land have C of O, then let them be paying a particular tax for holding that C of O, maybe every year or every five years. That's a more better policy. But we hope to see, you know, these laws evolve in Africa.
Now, for starters going into the real estate sector, what issues should they bear in mind?
Well, they first need to know that real estate is a long-term game. It's not a short-term game, right? And I've seen people come into the sector, take too much loan, over leverage, and they crash, particularly in Africa.
All right, let's talk about finance. Just mentioned there some key aspects.
Yeah.
How friendly are the banks to real estate in Nigeria?
They're not friendly at all. In fact, right now I'm already thinking of starting a mortgage bank, and if possible in future a commercial bank, or buying one, because I could see how they're leaving too much money on the table. A lot of the banks in developed clime have become so big by leveraging on real estate. You know, in fact, the 2008 crisis was a real estate bank crashing. Yeah, so because the economy was really backed on that. So, but our banks have claimed they are scared you know, giving people loan, giving people mortgage. And I think it starts with the central bank. The central bank has to come up with a policy that, if possible, can, you know, become like a guarantee for some of those real estate loans. You know, the same way AMCON evolved in Nigeria, where if bank lose, you know, somebody takes a loan from a bank, refuse to pay, the bank sells the loan to AMCON.
Yeah.
Right, and then AMCON figure it out, right? The same thing you can do. You can empower the commercial banks, because if you keep waiting for mortgage banks, there are not enough of them that are solid to have the resources to do that. But the commercial banks are strong. You can empower the commercial bank and say, you know what, if anybody takes a mortgage from you and is not able to pay, right, within the period stated, you are free to go and sell it, you know, at auction and take back your money. Or you are free to come and sell it to maybe another, you know, institution that the bank will set up, you know, and we will buy it from you and give you back whatever loan you gave that individual. But it's key and critical to unlock the potential of the real estate sector in Africa, and it begins with the banking sector. The financial sector has to support more. Do you know in 15 years we've not taken a single bank loan? Not because we don't want to, but the terms are not favorable.
Terms are not favorable.
You know, and such that it's almost as if your business, you are going to sell out your business if you try to do so. The terms are not, you cannot pay back in reality. But what we had to leverage on, and it has worked, was social capital. We've had to rely on individuals who know our story, who believe in our story. On their own, they started investing with us and give them returns as we expand our real estate asset. And that has proven to be better than even going to the commercial bank, which is unfortunate.
All right. Now, since independence, we have realized that African economies have depended mostly on their natural potentials: oil, gas, some cases agriculture, forestry. At a time when they are talking about economic diversification, especially for a country like Nigeria, which is dependent on oil. Do you think real estate can be that sustainable, you know, how can I put it? Let me say, a real sustainable substitute?
Well, I think we don't need to even argue over it. We just need to check other cultures, right? So let's start with Saudi Arabia. Right now, as we speak, you know what's happening with NEOM, right?
Yeah.
Which is evolving to become a major diversification strategy for Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
We've seen, you know, United Arab Emirates, and we've seen how Dubai had evolved and now makes more money, you know, just leveraging on real estate. We've seen New York. We've seen which other cities? We can go on and on to check different cities of the world who have evolved on the backdrop of leveraging on real estate. Even Silicon Valley, okay, is leveraging on real estate. Not necessarily tech.
Yeah.
Right? But the real estate of tech is what Silicon Valley has leveraged on. So globally, look at Nevada as well, you know, like where Las Vegas is, leverage on real estate. So all the big cities of the world today that are more sustainable, even when they have oil, they have seen themselves make more money, sustain their economy via real estate than even those oil. And oil is not, look at Singapore, oil is even not sustainable in the long term. At some point, the oil will dry up. Now we're talking about renewable energy, you know, green climate. So you can't count on consistent reliance on such fossil fuel. It's time to begin to look deep and say, hey, how do we develop real estate? I mean, look at Douala, for example. Beautiful waters. I mean, I was flying down into the city. I said, there are chemicals that can be put in to most of this water, that what we call swamp is what they've done to Las Vegas. You know, there are things you will put into that water, it will look bluish, right? And before you know, I'm telling you, everybody's coming to Douala for vacation. And the weather is very beautiful. So these are things, and you can't always say, I'm waiting on the government. Everything can be government, private individual, but the government needs to give an enabling environment for such to happen. I saw beautiful plantation, I think it was palm plantation, coming down to Douala. Beautiful. If you could just then walk on the waterways and make it cleaner, and oh Jesus, you will love this city. You will love this city. But it's possible, but it begins with all of us. It is a collective effort, really.
All right, now tell us about GTX Homes, which is like the
subsidiary,
subsidiary of specialized in real estate.
So GTX Homes is also quite divided into like three. So we have the housing, which is GTX Home. We have the land, GTX Land. Then we have the secondary market, which is GTX Suites, which is for houses that was already completed and you're just buying. And we're excited. We're now operating in Dubai. We control over 100 houses in Dubai. We're currently working on a 180 unit of 2-bedroom in Dubai. Hopefully that will be delivered between now and the year 2027. And also US, massive expansion in the US as well. We're excited about what we're doing. What we have decided to do is not just to grow locally. We also needed to grow internationally. And one of the reasons is because there is no way locally we can raise all the money to build what we have in mind to build. Our vision is to do 25,000 green and smart home with polo club, golf club, with, beach and a lot of these, tourist resorts is what we're building in each of our estates. We want to do 200 of that across Africa. We'll be needing over $20 billion in the next 12 years to accomplish that. We can't raise that locally, right? So what we decided to do was, we also expand internationally so that what we are doing internationally begins to speak for us. And so when we tell those who invested with us internationally, say, hey, but you need to also invest in what we are doing back at home in Africa. It's okay. Well, based on what you've done.
Confidence building.
Exactly. Yeah. Based on what you've done in Dubai, I think we can trust you for Nigeria. Based on what you've done in US, we can trust you for Nigeria. Based on what you've done in the UK, let's consider working with you for Nigeria as well. So we will be in the next 5 years heavily invested internationally as well, so that we can have that backbone to now be able to push those investors to come and help us invest in what we're doing in Africa.
Yeah. What makes GTX different from the other real estate agencies?
Well, number one, we're the first to start the concept of green and smart home in the whole of Africa. We believe strongly also in giving back. Most of our estate, for example, we've had to do the road leading to them, with our own money. One of them we finished with over 50 million to do over 400 meters road. We have another one we're starting, which is almost 1,000-meter road. And so there's a lot of giving back. There's a lot of, futuristic structure concept around it. It's more of something nobody has done before, because every of our estate, we want to turn it to a resort, to turn it to something that is residential, that's commercial, within the same space. And that's quite unique. There's tourism as well. So that's one of the major unique thing about us, and we hope to keep at that.
All right, you just mentioned about smart homes, and you're piloting this initiative known as the Smart City initiative. What is it all about?
So the concept of smart city just simply means that everything is smart in the house. You can use your phone. You can even control your house when you are not in the house. Once you download the app and you have your phone. The green part of it is not just grass. It's about renewable energy. Okay. So our vision is that all our estates, we're not going to be connecting with the national grid. We're going to be generating our own power. Of course, internationally, those models changes. Like the Dubai, what we're proposing is because Dubai is already smart. Yeah. So you can say you're doing smart home. Then the energy is from the government. So individuals can generate their own power. But what we decided to do in Dubai, with our 180 unit is to brand it with celebrities, Afrobeat. So we're having concept around Igalo residencies, like soccer players, Davido residency, or any of the other celebrities. We're currently in talk with some of them to see which of them want to come in. So they work with our architect and design their own taste of the interior. So even the day the owner is taking the key, the celebrity will be there to give them the key.
To give the key.
Yes.
All right. Now, let's move away from real estate and talk entrepreneurship. We'll start with mentorship. Doctor, you have mentored over 15,000 Nigerians. That's away from others across Africa. What drives you in this endeavor?
Well, my vision is to raise 1 million millionaires across Africa before I leave this earth. Right. So, and one of the reasons because that was what I lack, starting, and that's what Africa lacks. When you look at why poverty continues to grow, it's not just because politicians are incompetent. It's largely because we don't have enough entrepreneurs. Global economies are not driven by government. Jobs are never really created by government.
By government.
It's by private sector. So if you don't unleash the potential of the private sector, you will see that Africa will continue to struggle. But the more the private sector is allowed to thrive, allowed to grow, allowed to increase, the more you will see a prosperous Africa, an Africa where people have their jobs, people are self-sufficient, people have a great life for themselves. And I think Africans are resilient, they are strong. There are people who even just leave them, just give them the enabling environment, they will figure it out. Most Africans are not asking too much, right? Just give us, electricity, good internet, make the law easy, and friendly. And you will see how ideas will blossom. I am personally shocked at just my courses, at the books I've written. And I'm coming to Cameroon and I'm seeing people who have started their real estate and they're saying, I learned everything from you. I've seen people who now have many Airbnb and they say, I learned the whole concept from you. Now I rent for 800, I earn 3,000 every month, out of the, I'm like, really? And now I have 4, I have 10. It's humbling. Same thing with Ghana, same thing in different cities I visit. So it tells you that once you can show an African man, okay, give him hope, show him the way, create the environment, he will fly. He or she will fly.
All right, Dr. AKINTAYO, you are the founder of the Stephen AKINTAYO Foundation.
Yes.
What made you to come up with this foundation and what activities have you carried out so far?
Well, so we realized that a lot of entrepreneurs lack the access to other successful entrepreneurs so they can scale their business. And I remember having the same problem. There was a time where I literally found it difficult to begin to meet people who could help me at my level. Because a lot of the motivational speakers that helped me to motivate me to start, even though now I could meet them, but their own business wasn't as big as mine, enough to be able to say, at this level, this is what to do, this is what to do. So I said to myself, we must create, an enabling environment to not just give money, but to be able to let these people watch how you run your own empire that is even bigger than theirs. So we started this grant, a $5 million grant that is giving $5,000 to 1,000 entrepreneurs. We saw what the Tony Elumelu Foundation is doing. It's amazing. We just decided to add more one-on-one mentorship from me. So each of these people join my CEO apprentice program. Meaning they are also in the same room with my own CEOs. The CEOs make decisions. I share my challenges with them, and so what will happen is that by the time their business grows to my level, they already know what to do. They knew what we were doing when we were here, right? And it's helping them to scale. They're also networking with each other and seeing how they can do business amongst themselves. I'm also giving them exposure, promoting their businesses on my platform, traveling with them, you know, and giving them that visibility and that exposure as well. And so we started. This year we're focusing just on Nigerians because charity has to begin at home. From next year, we're expanding to all the other African countries. So from next year, Cameroonians can apply, Ghanaians can apply, all other African countries can apply. And then that same next year, we're opening it up to Africans in diaspora as well. So if you're an African, you live in Dubai or you live in US, or, you know, you can apply and you may win the grant to support your business back there. Because we also need to empower Africans in diaspora who are entrepreneurs, because most of us just go there and we start working. And what we don't realize is that those systems are not structures for employees. Yeah, Africa is even very favorable for employees because you have government being involved as a major employer, right? But in developed world, the system is you know, is not structured for that. It's a capitalist society, so it favors entrepreneurs. So we must encourage a lot of our people moving to the diaspora to start business, so that in future their business grow and they come and invest and replicate the version of that business also back at home.
All right, now what does it take for someone to be part of the initiative?
They just need to go to Stephen AKINTAYO Foundation.org and apply. Every month there's a different category. So they check which category is in line with their business. And then they apply. They can apply months ahead. They don't need to wait till the month. So for example, let's say you're into manufacturing. Manufacturing, we do that between health and manufacturing is April. So, and maybe you are saying this in January. Go ahead and apply, you know, for the April one now, you know, so that you are way ahead in your application. You can submit every requirement. Typically, I'm not involved. There's a team. They then select the top 50 ideas, bring them to, you know, and they ask them to do videos. They upload the video, and we see those that people love their ideas. And then the last 10 are able to come and pitch via Instagram Live. And then there's another judge that comes in and pick those that are going to win. So every month we're giving different categories. So what we decide to do next year, we're increasing the number to, this year we're doing 24. Next year we're increasing to over 70 or so. So that way we are having almost every month, almost 10 people are awarded the grant.
All right. Now, this money, 5 million for 5 years initiative. How are you going to raise this money, and how is it distributed across the 5 years?
So at the moment, the company GTX Homes 25,000 Green and Smart Home project is the one sponsoring it. However, we are now registered in the US as a non-profit, and we're hoping that from next year, because the registration we did in the US is such that people can write off their tax, you know, by donating to the foundation. So we're hoping that from next year, and we're going to be doing a lot of work in the US next year. So hoping from next year, we'll begin to have donors from Western worlds as well. And we'll start pushing some campaigns around the foundation and what we do, and willingness to accept donations from next year. But for this year, again, my principle about anything I do, use your own funds first. If you really believe in it, you know, use your own funds and let people see that you're doing it, that it's genuine, before you now say other people should join.
Should join. All right. Now, as someone who has been a mentor and giving out grants to SMEs and helping them to grow, how viable is this kind of action for the growth of entrepreneurs, not only in Nigeria, but across the African continent?
It's very viable, because one of the things that, I mean, when Tony, the Illumelu Foundation started, it was, I don't know whether it was, I think it was 100 million in 10 years. That was the vision. So every year, you know, wanted to do. Today, One donor is giving to nearly $400 million, right? So now they do way more than what he initially planned, because there are now different donors working with Tony to donate funds to entrepreneurs, to support entrepreneurs. And so it's something that there are so many institutions that want to support projects like this, but they needed genuine, because NGOs way back had been one of the ways people were defrauding people. And so there has to be a review on how those stuff work. And today now, people hardly, donor institutions and agencies hardly just donate funds anymore. They rather will work with, like, you look at what's happening with Bill Gates Foundation. Yeah. It's easy to trust Bill Gates Foundation. Even Warren Buffett donated to Bill Gates Foundation. I think Dangote even donated as well. A lot of even rich people are not even as rich as Bill Gates donated to Bill Gates Foundation, because they know the money will get to the right source. The money will indeed be used to help people. So I think that there's a shift in how philanthropy work, and that people are now saying those who already are successful, those who are entrepreneurs, let them start causes like this, and then the other institution can then join them to reach out to more people.
Okay, Dr. Akintayo, you have been vetted into the Forbes Business Council. I would like to know how this particular move has given you an added value in your vision as an entrepreneur.
Well, so it's like a club of some sort of people whose businesses are, over $1 million and above. And basically, it's giving opportunity to network a lot of other entrepreneurs. Also giving opportunity to write, because almost every month I have an article on Forbes magazine that teaches, that shares values and entrepreneurship. But the good news is that I was just nominated for another, is called Forbes Best of Africa Award as the leading investment coach, and then the leading investment company of the year. And so we'll be receiving that in London in July. So as I've been a member of Forbes Business Council, it's also that there are other awards that come from different Forbes subsidiaries, and we're happy about it. It's also helped to legitimize what we do, because, sometimes due to the lack of trust in Africa, so until big institutions endorse you, a lot of time people are skeptical about whether to trust you or not. So it's been a good journey, but it's been a mutually beneficial one, because I've written several articles that has also added value to the Forbes magazine.
Okay, you are now in Cameroon for the Billionaire Series book signing. And this series contains 5 books. I would like to go straight. What inspired you, first of all, to come up with this series?
Well, so again, I realize a lot of wealthy Africans don't write books, right? My big uncle, I call him Dangote, doesn't have a book on how he did his business. A lot of our entrepreneurs don't have books. I've promised to help them write one if they give me the chance, because I help a lot of busy entrepreneurs, and I have a method around it that will not take their time. It will just be like an interview format, and we transcribe it and work around it. But they don't have books, and what we don't know is that a book will go further than you will go, right? Long when you are gone. In fact, your book is a bigger legacy than even your company, because years to come, anybody else can buy your company, okay? But your book remains your book. Your name will always be there till eternity. So it becomes one of those legacy that you leave on the earth. It becomes your own gift to the world. And for me, I'm seeing that Africa is rising with young population. They are confused. They are not happy. They are losing hope. They are telling themselves, we can't make it in this continent. And if I started in this continent and was successful enough to then expand internationally, and I'm still doing well internationally, then that's a story worth telling. But the story is not just luck there are principles behind it. There are habits behind it. Your habit determines your decisions determine your destiny. So if we don't begin to share those core values, look at years ago, our great-grandparents used to live long.
Yeah.
There were herbs they used to take, there were foods they used to eat. But what happened? They didn't write it in books. They didn't pass it on to the next generation. And now, the new generation are just dying, easily. How come cancer was not killing us years ago?
Exactly.
Okay? There were things they were taking. And so, the reality is that it's time to start putting in a book. I remember one of those, I co-authored a book with her, Feeling 40 at 80. She's 83 now. I call her my grandma. I met her in London. This woman was about doing 80 years. She's working strongly. In fact, she works smarter than I do sometimes. Right? Farm. She's sharp. She's never been to hospital in over 30 years. Not even for headache. I said, Ma, there must be something you are doing.
The secret.
She said, it's God. I said, I'm not denying it's God. But aside the grace of God, there must be some habits. Only to sit her down. She started telling me how she doesn't eat red meat, how she cooks her food. I said, hey, maybe you say it's just God alone. So we had to turn it to a new book, right? And it's helped a lot of people on that. So for me, it's important to chronicle your secrets. It won't affect your own income either way. The world is so large. The market is global. So that you share your secret does not in any way affect your own opportunities. And so for me, I'm excited about the book. It's my legacy to Africa and to the rest of the world. And the reception has been amazing among young people. It's giving them hope. They're excited about it. And it's my first time in Cameroon. And it's amazing to have a whole lot of army of people who have been following me over the years, and they're just excited to be part of the book signing.
Okay, your subject matter is on billionaires. That's where you went to pick out the good practices from billionaires. Why the focus on billionaires?
Well, because in reality, if you're a millionaire in Africa, when you change it to dollars, you're probably a thousandaire.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're an African, all you are focusing on is to become a millionaire. In reality, you are not watching much, right? So, but at least if you are targeting billions, it means minimum $2 million, right?
Yeah.
For you to be a billionaire in either Cameroon currency or Nigerian currency and several other African countries. So if in Zimbabwe, I heard practically everyone's even a billionaire. Yeah. So if we were to have written the book for Zimbabweans, we probably need to talk about trillionaires in their own economy. So we needed to think big. Even if it's in dollars, why not? Who says you can't be a billionaire in dollars, right? So for me, it's that we needed to inspire a lot of our people to think big and not to be contented, because we easily get contented in Africa. Yeah. Once you have little money, your family members begin to give you fancy titles, your head begins to get big.
Sure.
And then you get lazy, and then that's the end of the business. Rather than realizing that Mark Zuckerberg is your age mate, right? And he's still working as hard as he could, despite being probably the 7th richest man in the world. Now, you are not even the 100,000 richest people in the world, and then you are already arrogant because you had one small business. So it's high time to challenge Africans, to think bigger, to grow bigger, and to make it big. But they must start small. And that's part of what we share in the book. I didn't start big, I started small. My business started with 1,000 naira and it's grown to billions today. So I didn't start big, I started small. So start small, think big, and grow fast.
All right, you use the words habits and quotes.
Yes. In
this 5 series. How important are these elements for an entrepreneur? Very, very important, right?
There are certain doors that are in quotes. There are safes that are in codes. If you don't know the code, you can't retrieve the goods in the safe. And the same thing with success and becoming a billionaire. There are codes that if you use them, they unlock great opportunities. And if for any reason we refuse to use those codes, right, we will also still struggle to unlock amazing opportunities for ourselves. So it's highly important to understand that this world is governed by principles. And those principles are encapsulated in codes for the Billionaire Code. There are also habits. Your habits will influence the decisions you make. The decision you make will determine your destiny. For example, if you are overeating and you are not exercising, you become obese. It's the obesity who now determines your health destiny. You see now? So say, oh, the guy is not healthy. Sometimes some of those health issues were as a result of habits. You drink too much, you eat too much in the night, you refuse to pick up the habit of exercise. Now, your future is determined for you. So, right habits will always lead to wealth. For example, I've said it over and over again, our money habits are wrong in Africa. We have a habit of, you collect your salary, right? And then you save. And then what you save, suddenly some relative from nowhere who has mismanaged his own money will come and use God to blackmail you. Will use culture to blackmail you. Will use a ancestral link to blackmail you and take all that money away. Right? Years to come, you need the money. You won't have it. Right? You too will now be looking for who else to blackmail as well. Do you see how the circle of poverty continues? Instead of we all deciding to say, I have saved this money. I denied myself of some things to have saved this much money. I will invest it. I'm not just going to throw it away. Right? I'm not. There are people, I met a young man in Dubai whose uncle was demanding money from him every month. And the uncle has 3 wives. In fact, he recently got the 3rd wife. I said, that's nonsense. So your uncle is taking your money, right, to be marrying more wives, and you are struggling here in Dubai. And these are the kind of habits, and we wonder why we are not wealthy. We wonder why we have not built wealth. The habits are wrong. The habits cannot make us wealthy if we continue those habits. So there has to be right cultures, right habits, and somebody has to teach us that this is how you need to manage your finances if you want to become wealthy. This is how, at a phase of your life, you need to be very conservative. You know, you are not a politician. It's politicians that can come in here now and begin to dash everybody money, right? They didn't work for it, right? And that's why some of us who are now entrepreneurs, people then expect us to be behaving like politicians. You see now? Which is why we need books like this, so that people understand the difference. There's a difference between somebody who become a billionaire by stealing government money and somebody who just was selling and buying. 2 different people, 2 different approach, 2 different mindsets, you know, totally different mindset. And if you are not a politician, you are a citizen and you want to become wealthy, you better pick up the right habits of real entrepreneurs and not be behaving like a politician. Else poverty will design your destiny.
All right. Now, amongst this series that you have published, there's a special one for pastors. Why did you come up with a special one for pastors?
So we realize that pastors are very influential, right? And not just pastors, religious leaders, very, very influential. And very, very influential. And many of them have, one way or the other, also been a victim of these wrong habits, right? And when you look at religion, religion does something very good, but anti-business. In its foundation, religion is socialist by design. You see now. When it now comes to building wealth, it's very much capitalist. So what happened is that most pastors are indirectly operating with socialist philosophies, or directly or indirectly. Sometimes they didn't even know. And what that does to them is that they too, when they have little money, they've helped church members, they've given the whole thing out. The day they need money too, right? They need, and when church members are not forthcoming, you are almost tempted to manipulate, right? And begin to give prophecies that don't exist. And we've seen this circle. And we're beginning to see a lot of hatred against pastors over issue of tithe and money. And I said, we can't continue to leave the root cause and then begin to focus on what is not the root cause. The root cause is that most pastors have not learned to be entrepreneurs. They've not learned to become investors. So first of all, how can they raise investors? How can they raise capitalists if they are not one? How can they encourage their members to build wealth if they have not built one? You can't give what you don't have. So we felt that we needed to write a book that help pastors to understand the opportunities around their own space. In the book, we have about 20 businesses pastors can do, right? So a lot of opportunities exist for pastors, even some of them, how they could just, leverage on their giftings, their talent, their content, to build wealth for themselves, and principles that could help them do that. Because once the pastor is rich, he will raise rich members. My own pastor is a rich man, he's a billionaire, right? So you shouldn't wonder why I'm a billionaire. They claim he has 4 private jets. I'm happy for him. I'm about buying my own too, right? So you only give what you have. So it's important to begin to also help pastors build wealth, work on their finances.
All right. Nigeria is going through a very tough economic phase at this moment. Yeah. The new president has taken over office and is trying to fix things into shape. As an entrepreneur in that country, what is your vision for the economy of the country?
Well, I did not support the president, but he's my president now. And I wish him all the best. I now pray for my president every day. I pray he succeeds, because his direct and indirect decisions affect all of us in Nigeria. And I've encouraged Nigerians to support him as well, because Nigerians, sometimes we can complain, and we love using social media to express our anger. But we also need to know, like the Bible says, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. They prosper that do so. Once somebody has been sworn in as your president, he's your president. You need to find a way to pray for him and wish him all the best. However, I am also very confident that he will do well. In my ranking of the candidates, he was number 2. The only reason he wasn't number 1 was his age for me. I felt he was older. We wanted somebody younger. But he's very much experienced in business. He's very much...
He's also into real estate.
He's also into real estate. So I even said it when some people said, what happened? I said, I know his government will favor my industry even more than anybody else, because he understands how that works. And more importantly is also he has the ability to, you see, it takes more than just being good to change Africa. You need a powerful man to change Africa, right? And a nation like Nigeria will require to make tough decisions. And for those tough decisions to stand, it takes a powerful man. Look at the subsidy.
Like the one on full subsidy.
Exactly. Yeah. If he wasn't a powerful man, you could, Nigeria would be burning by now. Right? But he has influence on almost everybody, even the labor people, their former president, which is Oshiomhole, that they all revere, is in his camp. So I saw him in the negotiation. I said, there's no way labor is going to revolt over there when their real boss is in the meeting.
Is in the meeting as well. Yeah.
And he's speaking for the government side. So I believe he has no choice than to perform. And as a result of also the controversy about how he won, he has no choice than to work hard to win the love of the people. And I think he will. And I think strongly that 6 months from now, I'm very positive that there will be a new Nigeria, particularly the initial steps he took. As long as the funds are not siphoned by politicians, Those money that is now available from fuel subsidy also is working on the exchange rate so that we use one exchange rate.
Yeah.
When you look at all of those principles, once he's firm on those things, you watch out, Nigeria will change. And Nigeria seems to influence the rest of Africa. You know, once Nigeria move forward, you see how other African nations will begin to explode in terms of growth, expansion. Because, I mean, we are the largest in population. So by one way or the other, we do well, other nations will also do well.
Yeah, and talking about that influence, I will hope to see you invest in Cameroon. Of course, we have seen many Nigerians structures here. Tony Lumelu is here, Dangote is here. There are many others that are here in various fields.
I love Cameroon.
Or you're still taking time to study?
I love Cameroon. It's my first time. I definitely will invest. And I love the fact that you guys are so welcoming to strangers. A lot of the businesses that have invested, companies that have come here don't have regrets. And so definitely I have to invest in Cameroon. I'm even going to check some land today. You know, who knows? Who knows?
All right, good luck. And thank you very much, Dr. Stephen AKINTAYO. It was a pleasure having you in this edition of the program.
Thank you for having me. I'm grateful.
All right. And televiewers, that was it with Dr. Stephen AKINTAYO as our guest in this edition of In Depth. Until next time, it's bye-bye. Keep watching Dash News.